Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Indexer Office Hours. Today is the 11th of June, and this is Indexer Office Hours 161. If anyone is new to Indexer Office Hours and just having a look here, we have the usuals, but it's still worth saying. This is the town square where graph ecosystem participants come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexers. This is a conversation. In fact, we have a few questions for you today. This will be more of an engaging episode, or discussion, sorry, I should say. So yeah, please do get involved in today's conversation via the chat box in the corner or via unmuting your mic. And if you're having any challenges there, let me know, and I will try and get that sorted for you. And with that, let's get this is a conversation, and we do love participation. Yeah, with that, let's get into today's agenda. So, usually I give a shout out to the latest GRT IQ episode, but it seems like we're still on 171. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on from that and hand over straight to Anna for our regular Repo Watch section.
Thank you, Abel, and hello, everyone. So today we have a more packed than usual repo watch, so we'll get right into it. So starting with execution layer clients, we have had 2 new releases of Get. So starting with the least recent one, this is version 1.14.4, which is a usual maintenance release, but it ships 5 to 7% block import speed improvements. It also includes the Ether supply live tracer that you can enable via the CLI flag vmtrace supply. The next version up is 1.14.5, which is a hotfix release that addresses a regression introduced in 1.14.4. So if you haven't upgraded Get, just skip to the latest one, 1.14.5. Then on Nethermind, we have had a new release. This is release number 1.27.0, release candidate 0. This release brings 159 performance improvements and other critical bug fixes to the client, enhancing its efficiency and reliability. So between the versions 1.26.0 and 1.27.0, there has been an improved block processing by about 150%. So from 107 to 254 mgas per second. So one of the key advancements in this release is the implementation of the intra-block cache, which optimizes the processing of transactions within blocks. So this reduces both redundant computations and accelerates block executions, leading to a notable boost in overall performance. Then we have a new release for Avalanche. This is version 1.11.7. This is backwards compatible with version 1.11. It is optional but encouraged, and some of the changes are documented, changing the undocumented Pebble option from DB type to Pebble DB, and documenting that option, and adding peers tracked subnets that are not locally tracked to the response from info peers. Then on Arbitrum Nitro, we have had a new release. This is version 3.0.0. This includes entry point changes, so new default flags for the entry point. This includes OS 30 finalized, which is required by June 17th for Arbitrum Sepolia, and it's pending on-chain vote for Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nitro. So make sure you do upgrade to this version for Arbitrum Sepolia. There are some new config updates, some internal updates, so disabling LLVM in JIT build, separating WASM ASM database, and other bug fixes and performance improvements. We have updated our Launchpad charts with the default flags for the entry point as required for this version, and we are currently running this version on 𝗨𝗀𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀. Next, we have a new release on Heimdall. This is version 1.07, which is a release that contains minor improvements and fixes over the previous release. Moving on to consensus layer clients, we have had a new release for Lighthouse, so version 5.2.0. This is a medium priority release, and it contains a major improvements on how tree states, so how states are processed, are managed in memory, and an optimized epoch and block processing implementation. It includes other performance improvements, groundwork for the upcoming Electra fork and peer DAS upgrade. This also fixes attestations not getting added to the aggregation pool, which improves the quality of aggregate attestations that Lighthouse produces. And then finally, on the graph stack, we have a new release candidate for the graph node. So this is version 0.35.1, release candidate 0. It optimizes the subgraph pointer update process. It adds deployment ID to Firehose connection headers. It adds new features such as ZK sync fingerprint to the environment variable too many logs fingerprints. It adds support for Ethereum get code in mappings, support for fetching block receipts. It also has some bug fixes, so fixed check for deterministic error, fixed static filters restart behavior when using threshold, fixed incorrect comparison of transaction hash in Ethereum chain, and fixes block receipts call failure for some providers. There are other improvements, but these are the main ones. And then finally, we have had a new release for subgraph radio, so 1.06, which simply updates the GraphCast SDK dependency. Yes, thank you, Pili, for reminding me. We have released a new namespace, so the Polygon namespace is now supported with Launchpad namespaces, so you can leverage that. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Juan.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, starting with Protocol Watch, we don't have a ton to cover, but I'll be brief. Forum governance, we have a new thread for chain integration, which is add support for mode. Seems to be an OP stack EVM compatible chain part of the super chain. So again, should be fairly easy to integrate. Pedro already answered, letting them know that there's a lot of backlog with the chain integration process, but they'll try to be as brief as possible. But yeah, that's pretty much it. For anyone that wants to start the integration process, all of the details are in the thread, which can be found in the agenda. Nothing to update on the forum research side of things. For the contracts repository, again, we have a lot of work mainly for Horizon. Again, we have the main Horizon PR, as well as some test and internal review fixes, ensuring the rewards manager looks at the subgraph service, yada, yada, yada. So a bunch of Horizon fixes. I think they are going through some audit phases, so we will probably see a bunch of new PRs for anything that comes up in the audit. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. For the network subgraphs, we don't have any update on new releases, but we have deployed a bunch of subgraphs upgrades that were, pending to the decentralized network. So all of the already existing subgraphs that we had in the network are updated to the latest versions of each of them, as well as we have deployed the testnet versions of those subgraphs. So basically the Sepolia and Arbitrum Sepolia environments for all of them. We know that those testnet are not, officially supported through indexing rewards, but we still think, again, we should have them on the production endpoints, at least for the upgrade indexer to run it, as well as any interested indexer can, find it and use it for testnet if they want to. That's pretty much it for Protocol Watch. So I'm going to be handing over to Abel. Not sure if 𝗂𝗧 is here, so I'm going to be handing it over to 𝗂𝗧.
I'm back. Sorry, it's been a while. A lot of scheduled meetings at the same time, so it's good to be back in the IOH. Yeah, 𝗂𝗧-like. So today, totally, I feel the same way. Today we're going to be briefly touching on some kind of graph node updates, and then really just pivoting into the Sunbeam hack attack. I like that. So just wanted to give a quick update. I don't have my usual beautiful slides, so apologies in advance. But recently, some of the core dev teams were kind of working closely together to think about the future of the graph. And graph node was one of the main topics that we discussed. Yes, I am back again. Back is back. And the kind of topic of composition, you like that kind of fast back and forth? I can handle it. Tell a friend. Yeah, but subgraph composition came up as a really important topic across a few different conversations, and just wanted to share some of the updates that we're kind of thinking about. And so one of them is really how can we, or the general theme is how can we really enhance the network effects of subgraphs and make them more useful for their developers. Right now, there's kind of limitations on reuse and tweaking what data is contained in a subgraph. And so, say you want some kind of Uniswap or ERC20 token subgraph, but have some preferences on some data fields that aren't contained in the original subgraph. You're kind of limited right now, but we're thinking about ways that we could overcome that limitation and let developers have more power at their fingertips with respect to modifying that data, combining data. And so one of the topics was kind of a query time composition, where you're maybe kind of mushing together data in the realm of Graph Client by the awesome people at the Guild, thinking in kind of that vein of data mushing, to use a very technical term. And then kind of on the other side of things is a more index time composition. It would perhaps do this operation earlier in the process, maybe enabling reuse of for data sets across multiple subgraphs, which I think would be pretty cool for optimizing your infrastructure setups, maybe lightening your DB load. But yeah, data mushing TM. I need to get that trademarked quick. But that's kind of it in terms of what I can share right now. But really just wanted to update you all that we are definitely focusing on this, and I mean, and much more too. But this is kind of a graph node, subgraphs, high level update. Let me see. I cannot right now, Chris, but I will definitely share. And Chris's question is, can you tell us more about how indexing time composition will work? A lot of it's a bit higher level than my no longer engineer brain knows, or lower level, and so I don't want to just misspeak. And so let me get back to you, and I will definitely share updates here at an IOH, which I will try to attend more often. And Petco trolling, COBOL or nothing. My dad used to code in COBOL, so I'm trying to bring it back. So scared crab. But yeah, that's it for the composition angle. Now I want to pivot to kind of Sunbeam. Ford was going to be here, but sometimes fires happen, and he was on firefighter duty this morning, so he's taking a well-earned break. But tomorrow, hosted service endpoints will become unavailable. just to reiterate that point, I'm gonna copy paste that into the chat. I just want to remind people, we've been messaging this to the community for a little while now, but that is happening. And thank you, Petco, for the copy pasta. Appreciate it. But don't worry, because we've kind of prepared really quick guides to help you get up and running. The reason why this matters to you all, the Arbitrum Network subgraph, is previously most of you were probably using the hosted service endpoint, rightfully so, but it's time to generate an API key and update your Arbitrum Network subgraph endpoint for index components. It's time. Thank you, Petco. I appreciate it. 24 hours left. Yes. But not trying to make light of an important infrastructure change and change in our network, but also it's a pretty minor change. So please go do it. Don't put it off. Here's a link to the Arbitrum Network subgraph. Yeah, the scared emojis. I think that we'll all be fine. We are gonna make it. Like, we'll be okay. I have faith. And once you generate an API key, you do have 100,000 free queries per month. And so you're not going to instantly blow through stuff. And I think it's going to be very awesome to see a bump in network traffic, query fees. And so the overall, just super excited. And we also have a person that you can reach out to if you have questions. His name is Felix. He's in our BD team. He's been helping projects with upgrading, but he can definitely answer any of your questions. But just wanted to kind of shamelessly plug Sunbeam again. EduNode's BD team has been crushing it with reaching out to projects to upgrade. So super excited to kind of finally come to this end of Sunbeam. That's all I really have. If there's any questions, I'll be here, and don't hesitate to DM me or reach out. But yeah, thanks for the time, everyone.
Amazing. Do folks have any questions on the topic? I see a couple of people typing, so we'll give some time.
Yeah, just to call attention to the documentation link I dropped in the chat, just the network documentation, which currently lists hosted service endpoints for all of the networks, needs to be updated.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. Paco, just so you're aware of that. Awesome. Today. Okay. Amazing. Steak Machine says any guideline in docs. Paco, do you want to respond to that? I mean, any specific guidelines you're looking for, Steak Machine?
Yeah, Steak Machine, could you provide a little more clarity? We'll update the docs like for the endpoints, but it should be a pretty trivial, or that's a loaded word, but it should be a pretty minor change to your configuration. It's really just a new endpoint for the network subgraph. Yeah, we'll update the docs today, and then we'll put a message in Discord.
Paka, another question is, hopefully the indexer community mobilizes quite quickly on this. And I'm sure those here at Indexer office hours, will move first. But I certainly expect some indexers to take a bit longer to, update their configuration and, for that information to kind of fully propagate. I know there's a plan to begin to like rate limit requests for requests on the hosted service? And yeah, like, is there any concern that this could impact, the network? And yeah, will like the network subgraph have any like, will it have a different set of rate limits to try and limit the effect it could have on indexers that aren't updating their endpoints?
I see Juan's comment, uh, but I think we're going to have it nonetheless on infrastructure, Juan. I'm not sure what the name will be. Uh, but Chris's point, we're talking about either excluding it from rate limiting or applying a different set, but it's still kind of too early to tell the exact plan. Yeah, we're definitely kind of keeping an eye on it. And Ford is here, so that's great. And I might let him speak to this question, which is about uh, potential for rate limiting the network subgraph uh, after tomorrow, or the lack thereof of rate limiting, to ensure network stability.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Yeah, so I see a few questions in the chat. I think tomorrow we are going to be rate limiting all hosted service endpoints except for anything that we make an exception for. And I'm trying to make sure that we make an exception for the Arbitrum network subgraph at the very least, so that we have a little more time for everyone to move off of that.
Just a small, question, because I thought it was gonna be rate limited until I think 2 days ago or something along those lines. Where I got an email again. I have a bunch of subgraphs on hosted service for testing, as well as previous workflows that we did, and it basically said that they were gonna be gone. So I'm not entirely sure if there's a issue with communications, at least with wording on the communications, because I was quite sure it was gonna be rate limited. Then I wasn't sure anymore because it said they were gonna be gone. Um, so
I
is
can't
that
really tell you what was in the emails exactly. I haven't been intimately involved there, but yeah, I think in practice we're just going to rate limit them starting tomorrow morning Pacific Standard Time. We were a little bit purposeful, yeah, Petco, about ambiguity here. We didn't want people to rely on us to give them this grace period, and so we're really pushing for everyone to switch over. Yeah.
I see a few people typing, so I'm assuming there's some more questions coming.
And I'm guessing you guys already went over this, but it's pretty easy for indexers to switch over to the network. They just need to use the network subgraph version, use it to set up an API key first to pay for their queries. I see in the chat, yeah, we're updating the docs to reflect this, but it should be pretty easy. I think there is probably some concerns about paying for queries. Just a reminder that it's about $40 per million queries. So even if you rack up a couple million queries in a month, it'll be about $80 US dollars. As we monitor the amount of usage each indexer has, we can definitely be gathering data and try to improve efficiency if it becomes a problem. There's a bunch of metrics we can, or configurations we can kind of pull there with changing the interval that the indexer queries the subgraph and stuff like that. Yeah, and as Chris points out, obviously you can sync the network subgraph yourself and point to that local instance. But I'm guessing many won't want to do that because of the cost of either running your own Arbitrum archive node or paying for an external provider to do that for you. Josh, I'm not totally following your question around the cadence of new subgraphs. What do you mean by that? Like this kind of inflow of many subgraphs being published to the network? Yeah, so I mean, we should be seeing our biggest inflows right now. So there's a combination of many users upgrading, and then we have people on our team are also auto upgrading a bunch of subgraphs that didn't get upgraded by users but had a lot of query usage just to make sure people can query those on the network. So there'll be a bunch of batches of publishing happening today. I'm guessing there will also be some follow-on effect of the June 12th date hitting and users running to upgrade to the network this week as well. So I'm sure there'll be some more inflows this week happening. I'm not sure how to quantify what that'll look like. Given we have a little pause here, maybe I should mention the issue that we had this morning that I just got off triaging. We there's a hard limit on one of the cache, the LRU cache that the indexer service uses, and it only keeps 5,000 allocations in memory, and our upgrade indexer just surpassed 5,000 allocations yesterday. It led to a whole bunch of issues that were hard to debug. So indexers out there, if you're getting close to 5,000 allocations, I don't know if any of you are, that could lead to issues in the indexer service. I just pushed a PR that'll fix this, but yeah, heads up on that.
That's super useful to know. Would you be open to sharing specifics on how you solve this and maybe give some best tips for indexes as they get to that limit?
So I just changed, there's like a hard-coded number. I'll put the PR in the chat here. Here's my PR. It's a one-line code change to change that in-memory cache from a max of 5,000 items to 10,000 items. That should give us plenty of headroom. As far as how we debug this, it was definitely an interesting one to debug. We saw the indexer service was having elevated query response times, and the gateway was having trouble querying the status endpoint and the version endpoint of our indexer service. So of course we looked at if it was saturated, is there, are we overusing the memory? Is the CPU saturated? Everything was actually looking fine there. The DB was having low saturation as well. It turned out that because our active allocations went over this 5,000 count, the indexer service got stuck in a loop trying to build attestation signers, thinking that it didn't have them. So the indexer service got stuck in this loop that was CPU bound and ended up blocking a lot of other operations. So we noticed that by digging through the logs. Again, I don't think other indexers see this. I don't think anyone else has over 5,000, but even if they do, if you upgrade to a later indexer service version with the PR I had, you shouldn't see this issue.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I see Derek is typing, so I'll give him time to ask the question if you have one. Amazing. This is a call out to other indexers. It's pretty cool. Anyone want to chime in on that? Just to maybe ask a question, Derek, what do you think support could look like in that context?
Yeah, I mean, so some of the things that I'm seeing, and I'm just querying the quality of service subgraph. We've got it synced on our database, so I'm writing various SQL queries to chop the data up and look around at things. And we're seeing like a lot of the subgraphs that have like a bunch of traffic, especially those on supported networks or networks that are supported for index rewards. They're getting pretty decent coverage from the network, but then some of the networks or some of the chains that aren't yet supported, things like BSC, Base, ZK Sync Era, Polygon, ZK, EVM, X Layer, right? Some of these other kind of oddball ones. You know, there is just the upgrade indexer as the sole indexer on those, even though there's a bunch that have queries. So I'm partially curious, like, are there are index if you are shoot your list over to me, and I'm happy to toss some easy query fees that you could be earning. But yeah, just wanted to make sure that we're, you know, obviously optimizing our stuff for indexing reward and all that good stuff, but also making sure that we're providing consumers with a good experience with their subgraphs. Some of those to answer Matthew's question, some of them do have curation, but a lot of them don't, because they're, you know, Signal doesn't really do anything if you're signaling onto a base subgraph, right? It's not currently eligible for index rewards. So, but you can claim query fees on that. So, like, there's some, I'm looking at one right now that it's on base, and they've already done 30 GRT in query fees for today, right? You can easily put like a 10, you know, 10 or 100 GRT allocation that'll cover, and the query fees will cover your gas costs and all that stuff. So yeah. How is paying attention to curation even if no indexing rewards? Well, other chains that don't have indexing rewards, like the Explorer, doesn't really make it easy for you to signal. You'd have to go like interface directly with the contract. So yeah. I mean, I don't think you should fix that. If I were to signal on an unsupported chain, what happens is that the contracts will allocate a certain portion of GRT, so that accumulates as though it were approved. But then when you go to close your allocation, it's going to update that to 0. So essentially, it's going to eat a piece of the pie that no one actually gets delivered. So if someone, in a really easy way to think about it, if someone put 1 billion GRT on a unsupported subgraph, all of our indexer rewards would get real tiny. Yeah, that's true. If you want to lower GRT issuance, put 1 billion GRT signaled on an unsupported network. Unsupported for indexing rewards, right? And that also includes things like arbitration and all that good jazz. Yeah, you got to use a billy. 100 milli won't quite cut it.
Billy or bust.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess that was my only call to action, especially if you guys are running some archive nodes or you're getting ready for other things. You know, let me know, and I can send some deployments your way, and we can bump up your query metrics. Ford, can you touch on the the process for claiming query fees on networks that aren't supported. I know, or Lipfer, I know that you did something so that you were able to start claiming some of those query fees.
I'm not remembering off the top of my head what the limitation was that made it tough to do that.
I feel like it was something in an agent not recognizing the chain or something like that. I know Mark already patched it on his end. We haven't done it on our end yet. We're just accruing those sweet queries.
Yeah, like in parallel related, one thing I'm working on is adding an indexer CLI command to collect receipts in case the agent ever has trouble collecting them, so you can retry that. And then also adding that as a action type to the action queue, so collect receipts, actions and execution of that transaction will go through the action queue, so you can see if it failed, see why it failed, retry, do all the fun things you can do with the action queue. Oh yeah, okay, I'm remembering now, Mark Andre. What we need to do is set the closed at, even if you close with force close with 0. Cool.
Amazing. Any more questions on this topic? Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Ford and Paco, for and also Derek and everyone else who got involved in that conversation there. Glad this was a useful vehicle to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So yeah, that's really good to see. Okay, next we move on to the next topic, which is all about the CIP process. Yeah, Pedro is here. He managed to make it, but he's unfortunately unable to talk. So I will do the talking, and hopefully, if you're able to, Pedro, you can answer some of the questions in the chat. So, just an update, which I would like to share here, for this chain integrations tracking doc, and it is in the forum, so you can go check it out there. No, you're able. We need to find a sound effect for me. I'm sure there is a funny one out there on the internet. Yeah, so this is the document that I would say is the best place. Challenge accepted. Good stuff. Expected. So this is the document that I would recommend everyone refer to as it relates to the latest monitoring this. Yeah, thanks, Abel. Okay, great. I can see pictures here. So this is the document that I would like to draw everyone's attention to as the place you can go to find out what's happening with all of the latest chains. I will post a set of chains that are due to be added over here, but it's obviously all on the document as well. But just posted there for your information. It's a pretty straightforward process. Changes will be added based on the table here. What I wanted to do this time is actually ask a couple of questions. So if everyone wants to head over to the whiteboard section, I've pasted some questions in here so that we can have a good idea of how Ford's on mute now. Cool. I've pasted read out a couple of questions here just to ask about the current chain integration process and how it's going for everyone. Mainly specifically around the comms. Specifically around the comms. I would like to know if everyone feels like the comms are tight and they're working for people. So I guess we'll start with the first question, which is, what do you think about the current comms as it relates to the chain integration process? useful? Do you feel like you have enough time to be able to respond appropriately and support these chains? I've just posted a few post-it notes there, so I'm keen to hear people's thoughts. And we can try to get this fed back into the process. I see in the chat, need more comms, more often, more updates. Yeah, that's fair. I think the more the better. I think what would be interesting to hear from you, Payne, and the rest of the group is what is a good amount of cadence? Like what is it that people want to um what frequency would people like to hear about these updates? I think that'd be pretty useful.
Well, the whole process to me feels very hidden from everyone's eyes. There's nothing really public going on in terms of like how those chains are going and what we should expect and so on and so forth.
Okay. So then, do you think
You guys
it
need to work on transparency quite a lot, in my opinion.
Got it. Yeah, that's fair. Do you would it be interesting or useful for you to have a segment in IOH?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So every week we'll just like say a quick update on the latest chains and maybe okay, cool. All right, cool. I'll write that down so I don't forget. And as you can imagine, like sometimes there'll be like full on IOH calls dedicated to like chains that are about to be integrated or already been integrated as like 𝗨𝗀𝗧 and ZK Sync and the other ones we've done in the past. But yeah, a dedicated segment, even if it's like 5 minutes every week, just saying, hey, this is the latest. Keep tabs for this. Okay, cool. That's useful. A new segment for IOH dedicated to updates. Cool. Okay, the chat seems to be going off, so let me just have a look through here. I'm going to change an IOH as other venue. It would be good to go over upcoming changes in IOH as another venue. Okay, I get the first piece, Derek, but could you elaborate on what you mean by as another venue?
Yeah, just IOH as being a venue to communicate to indexers, just in case we're not all keeping track on the thread.
Got it. Yeah, okay, got it. Makes sense. So this is another touch point. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I think there seems to be some good support for a section, and sometimes there'll be no updates, but just the carving out a section in IOH where we just kind of share updates, I think would be useful. More often, the more updates, the better. Okay. Any changes that should be part of the usual agenda in IOH? Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty useful. I guess that's what would go into the updates. Thanks for sharing, Matthew. When there's an update to COP thread, we should cover it at Protocol Watch. Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, we could decide whether we do a specific segment. I mean, one does kind of speak about it at Protocol Watch, but if there's like maybe a more detailed update that people should be aware of, we can have it in that carved out section. But yeah, Juan is pretty good at covering it in Protocol Watch. Agree, we can certainly do this. Yeah, albeit mentions. Okay. Yeah, that would be useful, Pedro. If you could do that. Oh, sorry, I think somebody was going to speak. I didn't mean to interrupt. Oh, okay. I misheard that. Okay. Appreciate that comment, Nick. That's interesting. Network robustness over marketing splash. Do you want to elaborate on what you mean there, for? Just curious to hear your perspective.
I was just responding to what Nick said here about like the trade-off between like not wanting to disclose things ahead of marketed announcements
Yes, of course.
and having better transparency so everyone can actually prepare and serve the new networks as they come in.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, what do you? I mean, Nick, if you're able to chime in here, either in text or voice, what do you think about a segment at IOH dedicated to um the CIP process and updates? Do you think that won't be too much of a disruption to marketing, or what are your thoughts?
Well, first, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I mean, I think that would be a decision Pedro would need to make. I really just kind of work on the marketing and comms side of it, but I think he and I have spoken enough in recent months where I'm pretty sure we're aligned that, yeah, we can be more present here in IOH providing these updates. But, you know, this isn't a philosophical position that Nick has about announcements and kind of sequencing. This is more of a directive of like, hey, we got to get some co-marketing and we need to work with these chain partners and make sure we activate their dev community. So really there's needs to be kind of more alignment on how we sequence these things out. I do fundamentally agree with Ford. I think everyone would, that a more robust network is more important than big marketing splash. But there is still some credence to making sure when new partnerships happen that there is marketing buzz and comms buzz with the partners and their community. So I'm sure there's a win-win here, but we can do better for sure, and we need to talk about this at the foundation and implement.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, definitely agree with a lot of what was said there. Appreciate that. Steak Machine says, do we have an update about closing allos in the same epoch? Forgive me for not being aware of this conversation, but could you please elaborate on your question and maybe add a bit of context? And we can see if we can get that answered, either in text or voice, whatever your preference is.
That's been answered in chat, but there were some recent updates to Indexer Agent to support that. That being closing an allocation in the same day it was open, for which there were some recent contract changes to support that. That is supported on the main branch of Indexer Agent, but I don't think there's been a release cut for that. So you could get the PR build for that or build off of a recent build. But once we cut that release, you'll be able to get it. And then there's another update we'll need to do to Agent to allow you to reopen an allocation for that same deployment in the same day. So that would be like if you wanted to rebalance the allocated stake amount on a deployment and do it in the same day you opened it, you'll be able to do that. But there's a small change we need to get out before that is possible.
Amazing. Thank you so much for adding additional context there. Just as you were answering, I saw you posted something in the chat here, but yeah, I appreciate the extra context. That's always useful. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Derek says, like, wait. Okay. Can we stream session? Okay. There's a question here. Speaking of this update to the feature matrix, how do indexes feel about rewards being enabled for substreams, powered subgraphs on chains like Base, BSC, Linear, etc.? Do indexes feel like operating the fire hose and substream stack is accessible for these chains? Great question. I'm just going to scroll here to see if anyone else has responded. I wonder if there's any, if there's actually enough adoption for indexes. Okay, interesting. What do people think about that question posed by Chris? It is a good question. If anyone wants to chime in, that'd be very interesting to hear the perspectives. I see Payne is typing. You put a little popcorn emoji. That's funny. That was okay. That's an interesting comment there from Payne, which gives you an idea a little bit about that sentiment. Do you want to elaborate there, Payne?
Yeah, the first question, how much usage do we get for substreams on Ethereum? Close to zero on the network. That's probably enough said.
That's a big oof. Yeah, Fair enough. That's fair. Alrighty. Well, yeah. That unless anyone has anything else they want to chime in on that, that pretty much uh yeah sums up that.
You know, I don't know. I do think that
Okay.
there are maybe some indexers that are operating Firehose. I don't know, you know, um,
No. I meant actual usage of the substreams on the network, like not indexes running Firehose, because I can run 10 Firehoses. That's not a problem. I also wrote a guide, docs and everything on how to go around it. So that's not a problem. The problem is getting actual users on the network, as in, say, Uniswap to use their substreams or whatever that's been published. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think that's fair. Like, you know, d demand is important. Um, I think probably I mean, I don't know. I know that there are a lot of people experimenting, but probably the most serious use case for substreams today is substream powered subgraphs. And you know, those are enabled on the network. But I don't know what the data is in terms of like how many subgraphs that utilize substreams have actually been deployed.
Yeah, and the problem is you enable substream support for X network. Then you only have like 10 subgraphs up. Like say one of them gets with like 20K, you suddenly just have to, like, if you want to support all the chains now, you have to index yet another, sorry, not index that, host and like the firehose slash the substreams plus the cache plus everything, which equals to at least 1, 2, 3 terabytes of data, even more for BSC or Arbitrum or whatever. And it slowly doubles your storage and triples your storage with more substream modules and everything. And yeah, you don't end up achieving much compared to like adding base, for example, or some really used chain on the network, or focusing on new networks that are having like exponential growth. Also, question though on this: aren't substreams enabled by default on all the chains?
I think the feature matrix that the council, you know, ratifies updates to does list like data sources quite granularly, and like it splits out substreams for each, you know, chain source as a data source. But at least historically, I think like when rewards have been turned on for like regular indexing, substream, you know, based indexing has been enabled at the same time.
Got it. So not only we have to run RPC archive nodes, now we have to also run pool nodes and the firehouses. Brilliant. And the fire hoses have like 3 modules, three ways of running them, is either the RPC polar or the old implementation or the new implementation, which is absolutely lovely because there's no docs for anything.
Yeah, well, I hope that things get better in that respect in terms, at least at the very least, in terms of docs, because I think it's very important. Um, I think something positive here that Derek has posted is Builder DAO is working with a protocol who is using substreams triggers and would like to be able to utilize base, which is pretty exciting. More utilization of substreams is a good thing. So that's cool to see. Thoughts and Indeed, thoughts and prayers. Try and stay positive. Um,
Um,
sorry, what was that, Chris?
I just want to, I guess, ask and solicit more kind of feedback from the indexer community on this, because I think it's a really important issue. And I think like there are some folks that are more vocal, like Payne has been outspoken about these issues, and that's been great to like bring them to the fore of the conversation. It would be good to have others weigh in and like get a broader sense of like whether indexers are in agreement that you know well, like if there are any concerns with the Firehose substream stack, like for example, the large disk space requirements beyond the archive node requirements, or yeah, it would be good to get consensus on those issues from indexers. It would also be good to get consensus on, like if there's a sense that the documentation is poor and that operationally things are complicated and it's difficult, please speak up, indexers. The more of you that speak up, the more data points we have to like influence priorities internally and like direct resources where they're most needed. And yeah, just in terms of the feature matrix update that is pending council voting, if there's concern from the indexer community about enabling substreams, powered subgraphs, and rewards for the substream stack, then that's also something I would love to know about, because that will certainly be factored into the council decision.
One question on that point, because like from my stance, I'm getting all that infrastructure set up and all that stuff. There's just a certain complexity of getting all those things completed versus the demand. And part of where I sit, I'm kind of like, gosh, I would like to see more demand, and I'd like to have more availability to people to go and test that type of stuff, whether it's me supporting it or Pinex just kind of running point on all that or whatever. So there's an aspect of me that's like, dude, I'd rather have it approved by default, but then and I'm looking at like, okay, what are the worries of approving that, and what are the ways that the network could be attacked for that type of thing. And I didn't see a ton of ways that it could be attacked, but one question, would there ever be a scenario where we might consider reverting something in the feature matrix to where something was approved and now it's not approved because we identified some type of attack? Like, is that possible?
That's such a good point. That's something I think like needs to be there. Otherwise, like if we can't ever go back, then what happens if there's a bunch of networks that make it into supported and then end up losing their robustness for various reasons?
Yeah, I guess the question is, when we approve these types of things, is it approved in an immutable fashion, or is there a way to say, okay, never mind on that one, right?
Yeah, obviously we would need to set precedent for this. Like, I don't believe precedent has been set on this, but there's no reason that rewards can't be turned off, because essentially the feature matrix is essentially a specification for the subgraph availability oracle. So a subgraph could be denied at any point by the SAO.
Yeah, like, but that's like on the technical side of things. Like as far as governance, I've never seen governance go through and then be reverted. I think that's like an important milestone that we should try to work towards, to be honest.
Because the other
As
thing
far
too
as
is that if
other
that,
like issues that this could have, like if there's only a few indexers that can actually run the substreams for a certain network, it basically ends up looking the same as what I would call a subgraph withholding attack, where an indexer creates something that only them or a small select set of indexers can actually operate, and then they reap the rewards on that.
So, yeah, just from my perspective, given that this the latest feature matrix update is up for vote by the council, and it turns on rewards for a number of chains. The new ones, where's the diff? Here we go. The new ones are base, scroll linear, and BSC. And that includes rewards for both like JSON RPC based indexing, as well as substreams powered subgraphs. And obviously for subgraphs that use substreams, an indexer would need to operate Firehose for that chain and the substream stack for that chain. So yes, our indexers, you know, is this something that indexers are ready for, that, you know, they feel are like there are clear steps to do, or you know, is there concern about this? Because if there is concern, please speak now, because that's, you know, that will factor into the vote that is coming up.
I mean, I would maybe ask this question to anyone who can estimate, like how many indexers would actually be able to support that on day one. If it's less than 5, then I think that looks basically the same as a subgraph withholding attack, and I would personally be not for it.
My guess, you know, my very rough sense is that it probably would be less than 5. You know, like
Yeah,
GraphOps is not going to be operating any of the, like the substream stack for any of those chains.
yeah, so I mean, I think that creates like a uneven position where people that are able to operate on that can signal significantly on that subgraph and then basically pull rewards from the network without necessarily even ever responding to queries.
Yeah. Okay, well, I know we're quite some over now. If anyone would like to reach out and, you know, express some thoughts about this, please don't hesitate to DM me. And yeah, thanks to everybody who's run over. This is obviously an important topic for all of us, and we really appreciate the like candid feedback with the community.
Indeed, indeed. Definitely want to echo that. And at least on the IOH side, we'll definitely push for a CRP watch section, if you will, every week where we'll share updates as much as we can as things are progressing. In that fashion, we have Scroll, which I'm confirming for the 25th of June. So yeah, amazing. Yeah, let's keep working together on that. Really do appreciate the support, Pedro. Yeah, working on getting Scroll here on the 25th. So I guess there's your first update. But of course, going forward, we'll have a dedicated section and make sure that we give you guys ample updates, frequent, all that stuff. Okay, well, thank you everyone for again coming along to IOH. This is definitely something that was useful, and I'm glad everyone could spare the extra minutes over the hour. I won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much. POAP is in the chat, also in the agenda. I'll just link the agenda here again, just so you guys can see it. And we look forward to seeing you again, same time next week. where we get into a very fun panel. We have a panel for some very exciting news. I won't spill too much alpha, but make sure you're there. Okay, take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.